It's no secret that the dating marketplace has become more cutthroat than ever before. There's so many things that can ruin your relationship, yet have become so normal these days. As a man, it's your responsibility to be able to point out the flaws not only in your woman, but also in yourself if you want to live in a peaceful and healthy relation. Remember, a man is defined by his company, and the woman that stands by you is no different. Relationships are the most defining moments in the life of a man. You might have likely been, or currently are stuck in one of these bad relationships, without even knowing why. The reason comes down to social programming and influence, like I said before. Men have been accustomed to accepting so many wrong traits in women that can take a massive hit on their life later on. Modern men have a tendency to get blinded by love and lust to the point of overlooking crucial flaws in their partners. Here's the harsh reality most won't tell you. Women nowadays are toxic and manipulative. They will try and catfish you for attention and ego boost at each turn, if you allow it. With that said, it's worth mentioning that you should have an open mind while watching this video. Why? Simple. Because only you have the responsibility at the end of the day to decide whether you find yourself in a relationship with a bad partner or not. So listen carefully and think deeply about the words you're about to hear. I want you to keep in mind that your feelings could be deceiving you, and that the woman who you're in love with could be your ruin. Period. There's a saying to allow yourself to feel the moment, but don't make any major decision until your head is clear. If your girl has any of the traits that you are about to hear, then it's best for your own sake to let her go. With that said, let's check the 5 signs that you need to break up with her. Number 1. She always finds a reason to argue. This may seem rather obvious to most of you, but right now, I want you to really evaluate your girlfriend and the way she treats you. You won't believe how many men go 50 or 60 years of their life wanting to go deaf. If you are young, take this as a warning to save yourself. You may think that the relationship is stressful due to her being annoying or always getting on your nerves. You may have seen couples that never get along. In fact, it's so common these days. Just take a walk down Walmart or a famous restaurant, and you will see what I am talking about. If that's what goes on in public among them, just think what happens in the house. Have you ever stopped to think as to why these relationships exist? The answer to this question is simple, but so many men out there are blinded by their ego and are often unable to find it. The reason why you spend so much time arguing with her is likely not toxicity from her part, but a mere compatibility problem. The most common cause of an unsatisfying dating life is more often than not caused by incompatibility. Compatibility is like a base to your relationship. The more compatible you are with a woman, the stronger and more resilient this base will be. The opposite is also true. If the time you spend with your partner is mostly wasted by arguments and fights, you must find the main reason as to why that is instead of blaming her for everything. Remember the masculine principle we always discuss on this channel. Don't complain, fix it. The moment you begin to see that you two are not meant to be is the moment you let her go. There is nothing worse for you than keeping an incompatible partner in your life. Take the lead and free not just yourself, but also her from a hopeless relationship. Society might say, oh, that's such an evil thing to say. But you are doing a favor for both of yourselves. Number 2, she actively tries to slow down your progress as a man. I have seen way too many instances in which a woman pushed her boyfriend or husband into going down the path of degeneracy. Think of a girl trying to force her partner into skipping the gym, eating junk food, or indulging in other forms of instant gratification in exchange for her presence. These kinds of women will drag you down to their level and turn your previous success into a long-lost memory. Much like the devil, they will try to tempt you into a life of sin, causing you to suffer and fall back into old habits. Listen to that again. If you often find yourself sacrificing your delayed gratification activities for the sake of your relationship, you must leave her immediately. It might sound harsh to hear, but you are better off staying alone and growing every day than having company and being bound forever. You'll be way better off single than in the company of a sinful woman who holds you back. Take the example of King Solomon, the wisest man in the world. The Bible says he was so wise, yet his wives turned his heart to evil practices. If you make the mistake of holding on to her, you are only harming yourself and your future. You must relentlessly hustle through life in order to be the best version of yourself. And sometimes your first step into doing so is by letting go of a pointless relationship. Shortly after breaking up, you would quickly realize that all that time you spent with her was a complete and utter waste. But before that, you have to take the first step. End the relationship and don't look back. You will thank yourself for doing so in the future. Number 3, she rejects your masculinity. We all know how modern feminism has destroyed the reputation of masculinity, and how most women reject the masculine to feminine dynamic. If a woman doesn't allow you to have the dominant role you must have, she only wants to submit you to her will. If you allow yourself to submit like a good obeying servant, you will crush your self-esteem to the point where you won't be able to make a single decision with faith. You must never allow her to crush your will, no matter how hard it may seem. A lot of men fall for the trap of this reverse dynamic due to their societal conditioning, ultimately turning them submissive to their dominant female partners. Imagine struggling through a relationship in which you don't have the freedom to embrace your masculine self, unable to express your will in the world, as you feel obligated to satisfy each and every single one of her needs. Fortunately, there's a way for you to break free from her clutches, and that is to break up. As I said, the feminist societal programming has probably rendered you unable to say no and stand up for yourself. The high-value masculine man is able to form a balanced, healthy relationship with his woman by handling it with a proper dynamic. A toxic woman will never allow you to do so. Number 4, she refuses to hold herself accountable. There are countless cases of women who lie, cheat, and abuse their partners without ever taking responsibility for their actions. I have personally seen how awful of a situation this is. They do nothing but blame others for their own flaws and mistakes, and whenever someone calls them out for it, they do anything in their power to turn the blame towards the other person, hence successfully escaping the punishment they deserve. No matter how hard you try, or how much effort you put in a relationship, these kinds of women will forever be right in their wrongdoings. In fact, just take a look at Jada Smith's relationship with her husband. If you remember the Red Table Talk, do you remember what she did? She put the blame on Will Smith for why she cheated on him. She was throwing all sort of excuses out, like I wanted to heal myself, or I needed this or that. This is a prime example of a woman who escapes accountability. In these sorts of cases, the only solution is to run away from them and the relationship. There is nothing to be gained from low-quality women such as these, so don't feel sad or sorry for not accepting the abuse. And finally, number 5, she uses you as a crutch. You may think that your partner's love is always genuine, but in some cases, this can't be further from the truth. Some women out there are so lonely and in need of validation that they could go through with a whole relationship just for the sake of making themselves feel important. I said before, the dating marketplace is more cutthroat than ever. Things that were only a thought a few years back roam rampantly through the market now. Validation from the opposite sex can be a huge ego boost for some people, and you want to make sure to avoid them at all costs. One of the easiest ways to tell if you are being used for ego boost is to look at how she interacts with you. If she doesn't invest the same energy or doesn't engage with you, she is most likely not interested in you to begin with. And by now, you should know what that means. Being with a woman who only uses you as a way to cope with their problems and struggles can be a huge detriment, especially when you consider the fact that your attention will be expected by her at all times. They act like a parasite, sapping away your life energy to quench their never-ending thirst. If you feel like she's needy to the point of turning the time you spend together into a chore, consider analyzing her behavior. You've got to make sure that her interest in you is genuine, and not some manipulatory trick to turn you into a source of support for her. The moment you spot such behavior, you can consider yourself single. By the way, don't forget to show some love.